What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Matthew here with Convert4. Today we're going to do a over the shoulder where we're going to dig into um, essentially how we diagnose and look at the top 10 keyword rankings and drops for any given website. So I figured this would be a good video to do just in case you have been experiencing some drops in keywords or drops in traffic or drops in revenue. I'm going to show you an over-the-shoulder view on what I look for, and we'll kind of take things from there. So let me dive in here. I actually need to switch the screen, and need to switch the screen as well. Sorry, 1 second, guys. Still getting used to this whole streaming thing. Alrighty, so I'm going to present, and we'll dive right in. Let's see. All right, cool. So we're here. So what we're looking at for this particular example, we're going to be looking at the RV space. Um, the site that we're going to be analyzing is campingworld.com, and some of their biggest competitors, whether they share a similar page type, is questionable, but it's rvtrader.com. So the first thing that you're going to do is open up um, Ahrefs. You're going to go to Site Explorer, hit this organic search and organic keywords section over here on the left-hand side. Now, I really like this portion of the tool because it allows you to select different dates according to when they've cached and archived your site's keyword history. It'll tell you the ranking fluctuations, and there's a lot of rank tracking tools out there. Um, I try to stick to one or two just to have um, kind of an apples to apples comparison, but I do recommend two if anything does look wonky. It's important to have two different sets of data sources to then compare. But if you're ever in doubt, just do a manual search on Google in like an incognito window or something like that, and should be able to rule out quite quickly if something is accurate or inaccurate. So diving in here, once we're here, we're going to want to position filter by top 10, and then we're going to look at declined. It's important to look at improved as well, so you can check and observe some of your wins and then use some deduction to figure out why some of those keywords are winning. Sometimes it's random, sometimes there is a correlation. So the sooner you can pick up on those correlations, the better off you're going to be long term. But let's just take this top one. Let's see, we don't want to do any near me base queries because more than likely those are going to be geo-specific, and I don't want to use that as a sample because we'd have to test tens or hundreds of locations to have anything accurate to look over. So we're going to look at Class C RV for sale. That's a pretty big search term for us. It's 32,000 monthly search volume just for that one specific term that Ahrefs has defined. Now, the thing with search volume is there's a lot of variations of this term that are being searched that aren't calculated here. So this number is likely um, going to fluctuate quite heavily. I would say it can fluctuate 50 to 75% or more I've seen in some circumstances. And also there's, seasonality and things like that, of course, which we see with holiday-based searches. Obviously people aren't searching for Christmas gifts in March. Um, so that's something to consider. But we're going to take a look at this. We lost about, if we were getting 13,000, we lost 3,000. We lost about 25% of our search traffic there, going from position 1 to 2. That is probably impacting our revenue to that page quite substantially. So we're going to take a look at and see why that happened. So pulling this up here, I just pulled up an incognito window and I searched Class C RV for sale. Now, of course, we have our, we have our Google ads up at the top, and coming down here, you can see RV Trader and RV Trader with this indentation of a more particular page. It looks like a search filter. It's showing up as the number 1 and number 2 listing. This has actually been happening more and more frequently, where Google, instead of giving the site two separate listings in the same indentation, they're giving sites two listings with increased indentation as a secondary listing if it thinks that result could also satisfy the search intent of the user looking for a Class C RV for sale. So we're going to pull that one open. So let's just pull both these open because that's number 1 and number 2. And then here's our page here. So just by looking at things, you're going to want to compare apples to apples. If you lost the number 1 position, obviously you want to look at who passed you. If you're further down the page, I would recommend looking at the top 3 listings. But the first thing that you're going to want to do is look and see if the page type has changed for the query. So what I mean by that is if we're looking at these pages here, we want to make sure that all of these pages follow a similar page type to what we're presenting for this particular keyword. So our page, if we pull it up, it's a listing page for the different RVs according to the zip code or area that I'm searching in. So that's very important, and we'll circle back to that later. We can see here we have inventory, we have results, and there's quite a few options here, right? So, and then of course we have our supporting content here at the bottom, and we have our filters. We have already applied filters here. So this is a dynamic page. These listings will change based off of stock and inventory. This happens a lot with listing-based pages. So we know this is a listing page. If we look at these guys here, RV country, looks like this is also an inventory listing page. You can see here there's stock numbers. So that's good. That's one other additional page that follows a similar page type. Looks like the same thing is happening here. This is also relevant to my local area, Southern California. This is actually, and this is interrupting the user experience here. I'd recommend for them to actually remove this because I can't read this very well. But looks like they're grouping together California, Arizona, Oregon, Nevada, and Washington. So they're at a bit of a disadvantage because our page is particularly targeted California. We have Giant RV. Looks to be very similar. Lots of listings. One thing I don't like about this Giant RV page is it all kind of looks the same to me with these buttons and listings and the way they're positioning the RVs in the photos. There's no differentiation for me. Doesn't really capture my attention. And if we look at Happy Days RV as well, also targeting California. So this is a really good sign. We do know that the other page types on the first page listings are all following a similar page type, targeting a local area. They're a listing page with RVs and inventory, and they're all likely dynamic. So the fact that we share those elements in common, we can rule out that the page type preference of Google for this search hasn't changed. So we know that it's not that, and we don't need to redesign, change the UI UX, change the intent of the page. We don't need to do any of that based off of our research right now. And if we look at these 2 pages listing number 1 and 2 for RV Trader, it looks like one is for used Class C RVs and the other is for regular Class C RVs. So we know that users are probably looking for used and they're also probably looking for new. If we look at our page here, it's including new and used at the same time. So that's something that we'd want to note down. Perhaps we want to differentiate our pages into 2, targeting new and used. That way we have an opportunity to fulfill search intent for this number 1 and number 2 positions here. So that's something I would definitely look into. Looking at any additional elements, let's see. They have a lot of, I'm noticing they have a large filter bar here on the left-hand column. Ours is pretty decent as well, but it looks like they have a much more robust filter option section here. So this is something that we might want to entertain into including more filtered options. Perhaps that's an important feature to users, and that's why we aren't ranking number 1. So right now we're just looking at visual elements. We look at the actual listings of these RVs. Let's compare that quickly. So it looks like they have the price, they have the name, they have a brief description, which everything is clickable. They have a phone number, email, and they have the location, which tells you the distance. So that's one thing that I'm seeing here. We have the name, we have the price, We have a finance option. That's an additional feature that we have that doesn't look like they're incorporating. So that should work to our benefit to incentivize the users to click through and find something that fits within their means of payment options. It has the link, so it has some specs and features. Doesn't look like they have specs and features, so we have that to our advantage. But the one thing that I'm seeing work to their benefit is a they have where the vehicle is located and how many miles that is away from me. So one thing with local-based search to lead gen to purchase, users want convenience. So this to me speaks of highlights a convenience value. Knowing that something is only 6 miles away from me, I'm more inclined to reach out and to maybe visit that property to look at this product and perhaps purchase it. So that's something that we can perhaps include in our listing page here. So now that we observed some of the visual elements and things that might have happened within the search results, including search intent, now it's time to look into the actual SEO details of the page. So let's pull up, let's see, it was Class C RV for sale. So here's our page. So we're going to duplicate this page, and we're also going to compare these. So we're going to go back to overview. Sorry, Site Explorer. We're going to punch in our URL, click URL so we can see the exact details of this page and not something that's site-wide. And then let's go ahead and compare the top listing, which it's not a very pretty URL. It has all of these special characters, but we're going to try to plug it in anyways and see if we get any results back from this. We might need to clean up the URL. Let's check and see what happens here. Okay, yeah, so it looks like we're going to need to remove anything after this search. It's more than likely breaking the data here, and it doesn't. All right, I'm struggling. Okay. So once we remove that, so we're still not getting any hits back. Let's go back to this page. Really interesting. So if we remove, so something's happening with these special characters where it's interrupting the search. So that's not going to pull up. Let's see what happens if we do this. So what I recommend doing here is doing a site search to find the true URL. So we're going to do site plus in URL, and we're going to look for this search string here. Yeah, so it looks like they have a condition filter. So this is what we're going to do instead. Okay, it should actually pull, but it's not. Let's see, let's try this other one, see what happens here. The problem with these URL parameters. Okay, we're getting data off the second URL. I'm not sure why that first one's not pulling. For some reason, it's got to be something with the URL, something in this URL is breaking it. So it looks like this and condition filter here, condition used. So this condition being placed in the URL is breaking the search from us seeing the data behind it, but that's okay. We're just going to use the second URL instead. So looking at the data here, if you look at their organic search trends, you can see over the past few months, they have jumped up quite substantially. If we look at their organic keyword history, let's remove 11 through 100. You can see here in June, July, August, September, they hovered pretty much down here, but have recently spiked up just in the past month or so. So the first thing that we're going to do is look at their new referring domains. So we can do that by, let's see, they might have just used it. If we click on referring domains right here, we want to see if there has been an incline in popularity to this page of new backlinks. That would be a pretty big indicator as to why they're ranking higher over us currently. if there wasn't any major Google algorithm updates that have changed that. So I'm not seeing anything really too impressive here. These all look like listing-based websites. You can see none of the links are do follow. Um, there's not really any traffic coming through them. There is a lot of referring domains to these two pages. So let's see what happened here. This looks like a listing site and get real estate info, small motorhomes for rent. This also looks like a listing site, but let's double check. Yeah, it is a listing site. So I don't think new backlinks were the cause of this page improvement. The next thing we're going to look at is internal backlinks to see if RVTrader has published any new content and linked to this page as a source. That's also a pretty good indicator um, as to why a page might have improved. So if we look at internal backlinks, we're going to group similar. We're going to select link type, and it looks like this page is linked quite heavily. If we compare our page, you can see here the amount of times that we're linking to our page versus theirs. It's quite substantially different. This is more than likely because RVTrader has Class C RVs for sale within their header or footer or somewhere where there's a plethora of backlinks being created. So let's look at, let's see, this one. Looking for something with a relatively low number because this has 82 links. So it looks like this RV dealer's page is linking out to this Class C RV type. They probably have it as like a option for click through at the bottom of that page or page types. But if we look at these, yeah, you can see here for, let's open this up. We can get an idea on as to how they're creating these internal links. So let's see, PPL motorhomes. So this is their RV dealers page. Somewhere on here is a link to their Class C RVs. Let's find out where that is. We can look at the page source and then highlight. Let's just look for this search right here. If it lets me, why won't you let me search? So it's not actually letting me search this. Class C motorhome. Okay, so I think we found it. Let's see, Class A. We open this up. This page is probably identical. Yeah, I remember this Fleetwood Jamboree 31M there. So it looks like what they're doing is creating internal links on their RV dealership pages in the form of this bottom section of the page. It looks like they're linking to their most important RVs by type. So this is something we could easily do. Camping World being the largest RV dealer in the country, it would be quite easy for us to include a section like that for our RV dealership pages. So if we go to our dealership pages, RV Camping World Dealers, which I believe is locations. So if we go to our locations pages, this is also a dynamically populated field where it's going to show the most relevant location to where you are or where it believes you are based off your browser. But you can see here, if we scroll all the way down to the page, things just kind of end right here. So we could down here in the footer include links to our Class C RVs. We could include it down here below Gander RV of Hurricane, include like an additional, um, little carousel section of, maybe, I mean, Google loves websites that cater to users needing additional help. So maybe I, as a consumer, have scrolled through all these dealerships. I'm not finding what I'm looking for. I don't see anything in here. If we search for Class C, not seeing anything for Class C RVs. Let's just say from the position of a consumer, that's what I'm looking for. Um, we can create a dynamic carousel down here that shows not finding what you're looking for. Here's some additional areas that you might find helpful. And then we could link out to Class C RVs, new, used, Class A, Class B, etc. So that would be one way to recreate a strategy that is likely looking that is likely improving our client's ranking position based off of internal links. So that's one example. There's several others that we can go through that I'll save for future videos, but I hope this helps you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you think this stuff is helpful, I would love to create more of it. Just give us a follow and a like, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.